Are you someone who's getting into preparedness and you want to build your prepper library? Or maybe you want to give a gift of a book to someone who is dipping their toe into preparedness and you want a really solid one-stop shop? Well, I want to offer a review of this brand new book, Survive and Thrive, How to Prepare for Any Disaster Without Ammo, Camo, or Eating Your Neighbor by Bill Fulton and Jeanne, Chilton, Devon. This book was sent to me by the publisher without any strings attached. It was a gift, and man, I have loved every minute of it, and I'm excited to dive into a review. Sorry about the terrible lighting. I am doing this in the closet in my in-laws house because I wanted to get this out before Christmas so you guys get the review. And by the way, if you're new, hi, I'm Brecky. This is Sustainable Prepping, where we empower through preparedness, and we're gonna just barrel through imperfect lighting and all. So this was kindly sent to me by the publisher, and I did not have to give a review. They just said have it, and I am happy to give a review because I've spent the last several days, as you can see with my sticky notes, reading through this, and y'all, this is exactly the book I would write if I was writing a basic how-to for preparedness. It has a little bit of everything, and of course there are certain areas where we'd love to go more in depth, but for a one-stop shop, for a single book that offers an overview of so many aspects of preparedness, this is a fantastic addition. And if you have someone who's brand new to preparedness, someone who wants a little bit of humor but a lot of know-how, this really truly is a great addition to a prepper's library. So Survive and Thrive is broken up into different sections for different kinds of preparedness, and it does my heart good to see that the very first section is water. It goes water, food, forage, ferment, and micro garden, organization, shelter, safety and security, disasters, evacuation and how to pack an e-bag, and well-being. It also has a pretty extensive appendix with recipes, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of this so you get a chance to see it, but this is just such a lovely book. In addition to having a great grouping of topics, a really nice covering of different things. It's a beautiful book. It is colorful. It's got full color pictures, and it's got some full color diagrams in here. So this one, for example, see if we can get it to focus. I'm doing this on my iPhone, y'all. This one is about making sure you have a window cracked to keep your fireplace safe, and a whole bunch of checklists, which I will show you in just a minute. But this is just a really handy one book guide. Now, I've talked with Bill Fulton, and they do plan on extending the series so that there will be more in-depth guides. But honestly, if you have someone who is just getting started, you want to give a gift that's got a robust amount of different actionable items, this is a really excellent resource. So for example, it has this self-assessment right in the beginning where you can ask yourself some questions and you can begin to see just how prepared you are or are not. And it's right here at the beginning. So from the beginning of this, you can begin to either read this front to back like I did because I'm a nerd, or you can actually hop around based on a self-assessment and figure out where you best need to start your preparations. It also has this assess your situation page where you can look at different skills for yourself, your family, or your mag. And it's just a really great beginner resource that jumps into more in-depth topics per section. So for example, they have this when it talks about water, they have a whole bunch on how to store it, but also how to purify and gather your own water. So the high school science class of the magic solar still and how to put it all together. So you have a diagram, and then you have a basic checklist here. You also have disinfecting, a table for emergency disinfecting. Like I said, it's such a great one-stop resource. And then the next section is how to put together your own bucket filtration system. Now, of course, you can find several of these things in different areas and different online resources, but it's all together right here in color with step-by-step, and I do mean step-by-step for those of us who are not science people, on how to put it together. So I'm really loving that. The section on food I really like because it offers a solid overview. It talks about protein, carbs, fats, how to store them, what to think about in nutrition, but it's not crazy in depth. This is definitely one of those areas where as this series progresses, I think they'll probably do an entire book just on food and preservation and nutrition. But it does have like a beginner's guide to water bath canning, not pressure canning, but water bath canning, which I think is, again, a great beginner's guide. Now, would you want to only have this if you got into canning? No, you'd probably want more resources. But if you want a single book that covers things, things, oh my gosh, this is great. And there's quite a bit of humor and insight too, which I really enjoy. In the shelter section, there's this great home assessment list, and it really has all these different areas. This is similar to a cheat sheet checklist that I've created years ago, and it's just more in depth because it's a book. And I just think it's fantastic. I mean, it has everything: plumbing, electrical, walls, ceilings, heating, cooling, siding, insulation, everything that you want to think about. Moisture and mold, smoke detectors, escape ladders, fire extinguishers. I mean, it's just so good. And there's resources in here for creating your own safety binder as you are doing all of your assessments and putting together your personalized plan, which I really like. There's just so many great resources. There's pictures of tools that they recommend. It's awesome. So in addition to having a lot of these pictures and checklists, one of the things that I think separates this from other prepping books that I've read is that this actually has a really comprehensive chunk on different kinds of disasters, where a lot of preparation books that are beginners is just sort of a general overview, kind of like what I teach, where I'm like, think of the big stuff and don't worry about the details until you have your foundations. This lets you start thinking about those details, which I appreciate. So it has this whole section on disasters, and it has hardiness zones and things like that. But really, it's this section starting on page 176 that has these series of checklists for earthquakes and then what to do during an earthquake. And then it's got sections on flood and storm surge preparedness, hurricane preparedness, flooding preparedness, volcano, supervolcano, and impact zone preparedness, stuff that we wouldn't necessarily think about, but depending upon your location could matter. An ash event, a tornado zone, right? What to do before, during, and after, all this kind of stuff. So this includes radiation. So it has a section, heat wave. So they have here what to do during a military, nuclear or military zone. And again, for a lot of us, this is intermediate level preparedness, but I think it's great to have in this beginner's book because it has, right, nuclear disaster radiation exposure preparedness list, what to do during, what to do after, a great list for dosing if you are worried about radiation exposure, and then it goes into pandemic zone. So one of the things I really like about this is it takes all those basics: water, food, shelter, first aid, security, and it adds a really comprehensive section on different kinds of disasters and how to create a checklist for them. It's not a whole book on nuclear disasters, it's not a whole book on flooding disasters, but it gives you a really excellent base to launch from. So I am really impressed with what they've managed to fit into what is not a super chunky book. I mean, this is a very reasonable book. It's something that you could read if you're interested. It's something you could dip into as you are making different kits and plans, as you are building that foundation. Those of you who have seen one of my recent videos on how to make your plan fast, that basic plan and then reading this book and using the checklists to build from that basic plan would go together so well. They would absolutely be a great two-part planning for your preparedness. One of the other things I like is that in the afterword and the appendices, they have quite a few recipes for different survival foods like hardtack and pemmican and fruitcake and things like that, which, yes, you can find these online, but having them all in one singular book, one singular volume that is non-threatening, that is very useful, that is going to cover the major topics in a way that is friendly, easy to read, and easy to access. Yes, please. This has been such a fun book. So Jeanne, Chilton, Devon, lives in Alaska, ran an outfitting store, and has won several awards for her writing. And Bill Fulton is a former FBI agent who went undercover into militias and now lives totally off-grid in Vermont. And the two of them use humor and their own experiences, as well as a wealth of knowledge in sort of different survival scenarios, to put together a really excellent read. So I cannot recommend this book enough. This is a wonderful beginner's guide. And even if you aren't a beginner, if you're looking for a single book that you can easily grab and will have a comprehensive overview of all the stuff you'll need to build your emergency plan and to be prepared for disasters, truly this is one of the best ones I've found. It is so comprehensive without being dense. It is absolutely authoritative without being frightening. And it's very empowering. It comes from a place of wanting you to be ready, not afraid. So Sustainable Prepping gives a seal of approval to Survive and Thrive, how to prepare for any disaster without ammo, camo, or eating your neighbor. If the name doesn't tell you, it really is just a great guide. I absolutely recommend it. I hope you guys will check it out. Again, I did not get paid or anything for this. This is a true free review, and I loved this book. I am planning on getting a couple for some friends of mine who are getting into preparedness themselves, and I'm glad I have it on my shelf. If you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself, I'll make sure it's linked down below, and I'll make sure that Bill's info is down below. He is on Instagram and he is great, so I really suggest following him and getting updates on when the next books in this series are going to be coming out. Friends, comment down below and let me know what are your recommendations for must-have guides, and if this is something that you would want to have on your shelves. I am so happy to have it, and like I said, I've got tabs. I actually plan on going through some checklists and comparing them to what I already have on hand as a double-checking measure, but this is fantastic. I'd love to know your own recommendations. I hope you guys are all doing really well, and if you are celebrating winter holidays, I hope that they are good and nurturing. Hopefully I will be back with some better lighting and some better sound pretty soon, and I'm not having to film in an abandoned closet, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta survive and thrive. You gotta make do with what you have, and that's what I decided to do. If you are interested in a quick start guide and how you can begin to build your own emergency preparedness plan super fast with 3 different emergency preparedness buckets, I'm gonna leave that video right here, because honestly, that video and this book would go hand in hand. They would be a perfect match for building a plan. Hope you guys are all doing well, and until that next video, happy prepping.